5 years had passed since Robert and I got married, but we still did not have any children. Robert used to trust me, but I was infertile. I had lied to Robert, saying that the lady doctor had assured us that we would have a baby soon, and Robert had believed me, but I could not keep lying anymore. I was tired of deceit. I decided that I should tell him the whole truth and not keep him in the dark anymore. Before revealing the truth to my husband, I called my mother and asked her what I should do. My mother suggested that I should arrange for Robert to marry another woman, as this would make him grateful to me and he would never think of leaving me. I was furious and hurt by my mother's suggestion, feeling like she was plotting against me because I had tarnished her reputation. I angrily told my mother that I had no hope of such a thing from her. After saying this, I hung up the phone in anger. When Robert returned home in the evening, he noticed my gloomy demeanor and asked what was wrong. I replied, "My fate seems to be written in darkness. What can I do about it?" Robert said, "Are you going crazy? Why are you talking like this?" I told Robert everything, that I was barren and could never be a mother. Today I had gone to the doctor for a checkup, and she had confirmed that I was infertile and could never have a child. Upon hearing my words, Robert's face fell for a moment, but then he immediately took my hand and said, "It's okay, Lauren. You are enough for me. I don't need anything besides you. God has given us everything, and I don't want anything else." His comforting words lifted my spirits, and I was overjoyed to have such a loving husband. However, one day, my mother found out about our situation, and her mood turned sour. She told my neighbor that she would divorce me and arrange for Robert to marry another woman. My neighbor replied, "What happened to your first daughter-in-law that made you want to arrange a second marriage for your son?" My mother, like my mother-in-law, wanted to increase our family's lineage, so she insisted on arranging a second marriage for my husband. Hearing all this, my heart felt heavy. Despite not wanting to, I called my mother and began to cry. My mother said, "Lauren, where have you disappeared? Don't you feel like talking to me anymore?" Upon hearing my mother's words, I felt surprised. I didn't even know that my mother was struggling for my sake. I told my mother, "My life used to be very good before, but ever since I found out that I am infertile, there has been a sword hanging over my head all the time." My mother tells my neighbor that Robert is a very good person who fights for me, but in the end, a man will still want to make me his queen, and one day, he will realize that he should have a child in his life and should get married again. My mother started saying, "I feel what you must be going through at this time. That's why I told you that day that you should arrange Robert's second marriage yourself. He won't leave his millions of assets just like that. It's obvious he'll want an heir. If not today, then tomorrow he'll start thinking about a second marriage. If your husband marries a girl of his choice, then think about what will happen to you. According to me, marry him off to a girl from a poor family. She'll be subdued by you and will remain grateful to you, never attempting to replace you. If she bears children, then you'll also be entitled to be called a mother equal to her." Listening to my mother's words, I felt she was absolutely right. I said, "Mother, if you find such a girl, do let me know." I had already decided that without arranging Robert's second marriage, it would be impossible for me to survive in this house. Although this thought was like doomsday in my heart, I was arranging my husband's marriage with my own hands. But this was my compulsion, and I believed in Robert's love for me, which would never diminish. That's why I secretly started looking for a girl for Robert, stealing away from my family. I was from a village, the only daughter of the village headman and councilhead. My parents and brothers loved me very much. My life was very beautiful, but I lacked just one thing, and that was that my marriage had been decided by my parents in childhood, and the boy my marriage was fixed with was named James. He hadn't even seen the face of school yet, while I had completed my 12th grade. If a girl passed 12th grade in our village, it was considered a big deal. And James was a very strange kind of person. He hadn't even attained education like my brothers. But still, he was sorted. He knew how to talk. My brothers had been raised very well by my mother, but James hadn't been taught manners properly. He had affairs with every other girl in the village. Because of his actions, I started to hate him a lot. One thing about James that I found very unpleasant was that despite having affairs with every other girl in the village, and now she's no more in this world, and I can't break that promise. After hearing my father's words, tears came to my eyes. My father said, "It's okay. Everything will be fine with time. A woman, if she's good and loyal, can even reform a bad boy." My father said and left. I called Robert at that time. I was crying badly. He started saying, "Don't worry, I won't let you ruin like this. I'm coming to get you." And then I also ran away to the city with Robert. I knew my father would be very ashamed, but I was helpless. I didn't want to lose Robert. Robert married me and took me to his house. But when Robert's mother found out that Robert had brought me home by running away, she started saying, "Son, you can't compete with the village chief. I'm afraid he might harm you." Robert was the son of a millionaire, but his mother was the owner of old thoughts. She hadn't accepted the girl who had run away from home as her daughter-in-law. She had made every possible effort to break us up, but Robert proved to be a good husband. At every turn of life, he respected me. It was also God's grace that my father and brothers didn't follow me. Otherwise, my life would have become hell. Anyway, hell was still there. Because I knew that I am infertile and cannot have a child, I used to think that all this might be the result of my parents' curse. Well, now I had thought of getting my husband remarried, stubbornly wanting to ruin my life ahead of my breath. So I had secretly arranged with a woman from the neighborhood for some money. I had told her to bring a helpless poor girl's proposal, and no one should know about it. That woman had invited me to her house very secretly. She had placed a girl's picture in front of me. I was amazed to see her beauty, feeling as if she was a piece of the moon. The woman began saying that this girl is an orphan and lives with her uncle. Her aunt wants her to get married as soon as possible. I, seeing the girl's picture, said, "Auntie, I will never marry my husband to this girl. Just look at her beauty. My husband will go crazy for her." The woman said, "Son, this relationship is very good. Don't let it slip away. She is a very simple girl who will be subdued in front of you." My mind was not agreeing, but I accepted the proposal of the girl named Kelly. When I reached home with the picture, I saw a strange scene. My husband was sitting on the sofa while my breath and sister-in-law were sitting in front of him. My sister-in-law said, "Brother, why do you want to spend your life with a barren girl? Mom and I have seen a very good girl for you. You marry her, Robert." I interrupted and said, "Both of you stop it now. I have agreed to marry according to my choice. I will not accept anyone except Lauren. She is my wife. Until death, she will remain my wife." My heart was shaken by the words of my breath and sister-in-law. Robert's words had given me a lot of courage. I had left the room without saying anything. After a while, Robert also came after me. He started saying, You should not have done that. I can never do such a thing. I have given you permission for remarriage, but I will only marry the girl of my choice. I cannot accept anyone except Lauren. Whether she is your choice or my mother's choice, it doesn't matter. I won't accept anyone else. I said, I want a child. If you get married, we will also have children in our house. My neglected motherhood will find peace. Robert refused and went out of the room. While I was still sitting there crying, it's true that I didn't want children. So I was doing all this just because of the fear of losing Robert. Anyway, for a few days there was resentment between me and Robert, but I had already prepared for the second marriage by crying. But I was not happy. I had made Kelly my friend, and the day Kelly came to my house as my rival, my mother-in-law had created a lot of chaos. She had fought a lot with Robert too, saying that at least they should marry again. Seeing my suffering, seeing my breath burn like this, although I should have felt relieved, I had spent the whole night on embers. That thought was enough to deceive my soul that the person who had only loved me in his eyes would now smile seeing someone else, in whose arms I had been sleeping till now. Now someone else would be sleeping there. I wasn't finding any peace for a moment. I had spent the whole night tossing and turning. When morning came, I quickly came out of my room because I wanted to meet Robert, but he hadn't come out of the room even after 12 o'clock in the day. I had asked my rival Kelly in the kitchen, and she had said, Robert is still sleeping. I had stared at her and said, You didn't wake him up then? Then Kelly started crying and said, Robert has told me that he has only married you because of your stubbornness, and now he cannot assert himself in any way. If he throws me out of the house by giving me a divorce, where will I go? I apologized to her. I couldn't muster the courage to wake him up. If he throws me out of the house by divorcing me, where will I go? I cannot even think of going back to my aunt's house. My aunt treats me very badly. The aunt who had arranged for me, a very helpless girl, had indeed found me after thinking a lot. Well, I thought Robert would be angry with me. When his mood is right, he will come out of the room. But this was my wrong understanding. It was the third day of Robert's marriage, but he had not yet come out of the room. I was now troubled by strange thoughts, so when one day Kelly was busy in the kitchen, I went to her room. Robert was busy on his mobile. Upon hearing the sound of footsteps, he said, You've returned, my beloved Kelly. Were these words or hammers that struck my head? I had just retraced my steps when Kelly had already made Robert hers within 3 days. Tears started flowing from my eyes. My heart was pounding. I was heading towards my mother-in-law's room when I realized my sister-in-law was there too. My mother-in-law was praising her cleverness, saying, Look how smart your mother is. I made just one move and the snake was dead without even breaking a stick. Poor Lauren doesn't even know that the girl my husband married was the one I liked, and then Robert also fell for Kelly at first sight. All this happened because of that greedy woman who had fooled Lauren. My heart was breaking, and as I reached my husband's room, he was saying to Kelly, I made a very wrong decision in haste. When I brought Lauren back, I realized my mistake, but by then, it was too late. Lauren's brothers knew she was with me, so they kept threatening me over the phone, saying our sister must have eloped. But still, she's not alone. If you don't take care of our sister, you'll face consequences. I had gone there knowing how dangerous they were, so I couldn't even think of leaving Lauren. My mother colluded with a woman from the neighborhood to drive my wife insane and got me married to her. And my life, Kelly, you also captured my heart at first sight. You'll be with me for life. Oh, what was I hearing? It was Robert, the one because of whom I had put myself in danger. I silently entered Robert's room. He was surprised to see me. Perhaps he didn't expect me to learn his secret so soon. I said, "Robert, if you had to leave, you could have left just like that. Was it necessary to make me barren? Is snatching away a gift from God to a human equivalent to shedding blood?" Everyone together killed me with their cruelty. My breath, listening to my mother and sister's words, I realized how much injustice they had done to me. When I went to Robert's room, he followed me, knocking on the door. But I didn't open it. That same night, I left his house and his life forever. Now I live in an orphanage. I haven't divorced Robert yet, because I no longer trust anyone. So, what's the point of getting a divorce? I call my mother on the phone. She wants to take me home, but I don't have the courage to face my brothers and my father. One day, as I sat pondering my fate, tears streaming down, the guard came to me with an envelope. He said, "Madam, this envelope is for you, given by a man." As soon as I saw the envelope, Robert's thought came to my mind, and with this thought, immense hatred filled my heart. Now, I hate Robert because of his name, but I chuckled at the thought that I once loved Robert dearly. Yes, I wished I could pick up the envelope and throw it away outside and fulfill my thought, but then I thought, how could Robert be so generous to me? Has he forgotten that he is lost in Kelly's eyes? And after what he and his mother did to me, I couldn't expect anything from Robert. Thinking this, I took the envelope from the guard and went back to my room. And the next day, when my mother came to meet me, I asked about James. After hearing the story about James from my mother, my heart was aching. My mother told me that the day I ran away with Robert, James cried a lot. The whole village was holding its breath. He was shouting Lala's name over and over again. I remembered that James used to call me Lala. My mother told me that he had completely changed after I left. He had sold all his father's land and opened a school in the village. He felt that you had left him because of illiteracy, so he started teaching the village children for free by hiring teachers in the school. Along with that, he had also started his own business in the city, which gradually progressed. And now, by God's grace, James has no shortage of money. But as much money as he has, he donates it to the poor. He says, "What will I do by keeping so much money with me when my Lala is not with me?" He neither laughs nor speaks, just stays lost in himself. When your father and I see him, we realize that the responsibility for his condition is our own daughter. James. Listening to all this, tears were flowing from my eyes. I wanted to meet James as soon as possible. I don't know why my heart was restless to meet James. I told Mom, I want to meet James once. Hearing me, my mom's eyes sparkled and she said, "Lauren, if you want, you can start your new life with James. He is still waiting for you, but where was James? I was a barren woman and a married woman, but I wanted to meet James once to apologize, to whom I could not recognize his love and misunderstood Robert as a diamond and broke my head with a stone." With Mom, I reached James's house. At that time, James was not at home. The servant had seated me outside in the hall. Mom and I waited for a long time, but James had not yet come. Then I asked the servant and went to James's room. The room was not dirty from anywhere. It seemed to be the room of a very educated person. And suddenly my eyes fell on a thing in a broken frame on the wall, on which Lala was written, which meant that James loved me so much since then, and I could not recognize his love. When James gifted me bangles for the first time, I had broken and thrown them with my feet. James had kept those bangle pieces safe and had kept them safe till today. Tears were flowing from my eyes, and I didn't realize that James had come behind me. And when he called La La, I suddenly turned back. He was nowhere near recognition. He was lost somewhere like an illiterate loafer. When he saw me, a respectable person was standing in front of me, whom you could not say was illiterate. I was crying and suddenly hugged James's chest. I had broken all the limits. I had forgotten that I was married and barren. James had been standing for a long time, and I kept clinging to James's chest. Only these words were coming out of my mouth. James, forgive me. I never blamed you. The mistake was mine. I could not fulfill your expectations. I wiped tears from my eyes and moved away from James's chest. After a while, James said, La La, the doors of my heart are still open for you. There is no other girl for me except you. You can peek and see if you want for a moment. The same mischief appeared on James' face that used to happen with that carefree James from a few years ago. I had tears in my eyes, and I didn't know why my heart was not trusting any man anymore. A man is a man. Otherwise, if James also wants children tomorrow and he steals glances at me, I would cry and run away to my room, and held my mom's hand and came back home. My dad and brothers had forgiven me seeing my condition. The next day, James came to me. He said in a sad tone, Lala, I did not know that my love is so hollow that God gave me a second chance, and still you rejected my love. If you do not accept my love today, then I will leave forever. I will not come back to you forever. I do not care if you do not accept my love. I will leave forever. I brought these glass bangles for you. If you accept my love, then wear them and come outside. Otherwise, bring them to me. Saying this, James kept the glass bangles with me and left. I was staring at those glass bangles for a long time. God had given me another chance. It was a chance to find true love. And now I did not want to leave that opportunity. I picked up those glass bangles and wore them in my hands. When I came out, James was busy talking to Mom. I had my hands behind me. When James saw me coming out and brought his hands in front of him, the color of James's face changed. He must have been thinking that I had broken the bangles and brought them with me, and when I brought my hands in front of him, he was jumping with joy. Without considering Mom's presence, he kissed my hands and left them without touching them. Mom especially made me feel her presence, so she quickly released my hands. I kept smiling and running to my room. Marriage preparations had started as soon as I said yes. On the other hand, my brothers and dad had filed for divorce from Robert in court. The divorce between me and Robert was done within a week, and I got married to James. My parents had celebrated my marriage with great pomp. It felt like this marriage was my first marriage, the joy of marriage. I was starting to feel it now. Before, I had a court marriage with Robert. Sitting on the wedding bed, I was waiting for James. There was no trace of Robert in my heart. I was only feeling James's presence, and when James came into the room, I felt shy and hid my face in his chest. James hugged me tightly. Life with James would be so beautiful I had never imagined. A year had passed in the shadow of James's love. I had told James the whole story of me and Robert, and he had started my treatment. The doctor had assured me that I could become a mother. One day, while shopping in the market, I met Robert, but there was no brightness on Robert's face. As he looked at me, he came to me, apologized, and said in a remorseful tone, "Lauren, what my mother did to you, the punishment for that, God has given to me." My mother is paralyzed and lies in bed. My mother was eager to feed her grandson, and when even after 1 year of marriage, Kelly did not get pregnant, both Kelly and I got our tests done. Kelly's report was normal, but my report said that I could never become a father. Now Kelly taunts me day and night that I'm infertile. Lauren, I miss your love a lot, but now I can't do anything. You have left my life, but I can at least do one thing. I can apologize to you. If you can forgive me, then please do forgive me. Perhaps by forgiving you, the sorrows that have come into my life might lessen a bit. I held James' hand tightly, and looking at Robert, I said, Robert, I have forgiven you. If God has given you the punishment for your actions, then who am I to punish you? Saying this, I moved forward. Robert kept staring at me like a defeated warrior, and I kept holding James' hand, moving forward where there were only joys waiting for me in life. Friends, how did you like this story? Do comment and let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share it with your friends.